Hello! In my hands I have a 1970s Ibanez Hummingbird copy made in Japan. It belongs to my ginger friend's stepdad who asked me to take a look at it. Overall it's in a fairly good condition, except for a few knicks that I will hopefully fix. The thing he asked me for was to fix the playability and mainly the string action. This because the previous owner had that problem. When an acoustic guitar gets old, the bridge might just let go of the body. Now it didn't let go completely because of the screws underneath these inlays here. But instead of re-gluing the bridge, the previous owner just shoved some really strong epoxy glue underneath it. So now it's in an angle instead of flat to the top. This causes the strings to not touch the saddle, forcing you to raise it and make an uncomfortably high string action. To fix this, the most logical thing for me would be to take off the bridge, clean it and just re-glue it. But then come some problems. First off, the area behind the bridge has formed a little belly. It's not a big problem, because underneath all the ribs are still glued to the top. But I really can't glue a bridge to it, because it's not flat. And yes, there are many ways to make it flat again with rehydrating the wood and whatnot, but then comes the second problem. I don't have all the tools to do a proper reset of the bridge. And the final problem, even if I did have the tools, I'm not even sure that the Hulk will be able to break that strong epoxy glue that the previous idiot owner just shoved right in there. Now through the years the bridge has been in this solid position because of the strong glue. So instead of doing everything I really can't do, I'm just going to do what the present owner asked me to do. And that is to sand down the bridge. Again, I would do it the proper way if it wasn't for all the problems involved. Now that is the main thing, but there are 3 more other smaller things that I will fix too. First off is the tuner for the low E string, where the pegs that hold the pin has been bent, so I'll just bend them back. Second thing is that the hole for the truss rod is too small, so I can't get down there. So here I will route it out a little bit, because the truss rod cover will cover that up later. And the final thing is to level some frets that had just popped up. Should I talk while I work? Yeah, I should. Soothing background music. There we go. So I will start by removing the strings because they are in the way. And then the small pegs. So now the strings, pegs and bridge are gone. So what I'm going to begin with is to fix the low E string tuner. Just going to remove it carefully because these screws were a little bit damaged. As you see, the pin is almost ready to just pop out. So just trying to bend these 2 little pegs here, if you can see that. I don't want to break them, because then we have a non-functioning tuner. Come on, juice. Working better than I thought. There we go, huh? Yeah! So now that the pegs are in the right position again, and it works 100% better than before, I'm just going to pop this right back in there. There. So to avoid taking off the tuners while I route out the hole for the truss rod, I'm taking this. It's a rig that I use to route a neck pocket. And I can shove the headstock in there, and I will have a flat surface to work on. Taking my router, and I'm taking a tape, taping up the area so I don't get any splinters. Putting in a good depth and protection, because you should have protection. Let's try this. There! So as you can see, I have routed out the hole so it's a little bit bigger, and I can twist the truss rod without any complications or problem. So now I will actually loosen up the truss rod so I don't have it tensioned. Now it's loose, because that's how I want it to be while I work on it. And yes, I did just take a break and a shower. So now everything on the headstock is like done. So now I guess I move on to the part I really don't want to do. The best thing is that you, in the future, if someone else wants to fix it properly and have the right stuff or have the money to go to someone who has, they can just make a new bridge. But right now, I'm not that person. Now I have eliminated the problem with the strings not touching the saddle. Now it will definitely touch the saddle. But even when the saddle is at its lowest, the string action is still a little bit too high. So what I will do now is to take it and send down the straight bottom depending on, well, depending on. So I've messed up the bridge saddle. I have the masking here so I won't go beneath that. Now just take my files and file it down, simply. So up close, this is what the saddle looks like, and it's placed in this chrome bridge. So when you have it in the wooden bridge, you can twist the screws, and by this you raise the chrome bridge and also the saddle itself. But now that I have cut down the saddle itself, if you want to raise the string action, the strings might come across this sharper edge. So what I'm going to do is make some cuts into it so that the strings can go through them and not lie on the chrome bridge itself. Just to make sure that the strings never touch the wooden bridge again, I'm cutting tracks where the strings might touch the wooden part. So this is what I mean by the tracks. So if you want to lower the bridge to an even lower position than what is normal, then the strings will never touch the wooden part of the bridge. Yeah, the inlay is popped off, so I'm gonna glue them back later. So because of the fact that I've taken down a lot of wood from the bridge itself, the pegs now stick up annoyingly high. Taking a little larger rat tail file and just going into the hole until I get a fit I am pleased with. Like so. So as I mentioned before, the inlays that cover up the screws popped off. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of super glue. So the only thing left to do before the bridge is complete is to sand it down smooth, because right now it's kind of rough. I can now say that the bridge is 100% complete. But before I return this guitar to its owner, I want to do one last thing, and that is to fix the frets and the fretboard. The inlays, I don't know what they did, but they are all lumpy and stuff. So I'm going to sand them down just a little bit. Then I'm going to level the frets, because they are a little bit higher here than down there. So now that is done, and what I'm going to do now is the real funny part of masking the fretboard for the fret leveling. Now the boring part is over. Now I'll take a red marker and go across the frets one by one. When I take this and sand, I can see where I've been, so I don't sand too much or too little. There we go. It looks like I have touched every fret. What I'm going to do now is to mark them again, and then I'm going to crown the frets. That is fun. Why I mark them is because I don't want to crown them down so much that they aren't in the same height. Because if I do that, then the whole fret leveling has to start over. There. And while I still have the tape on, I'm going to take a sandpaper just to polish it up a little bit. As a last thing, I'm taking a bit of steel wool and just going over the frets, and that will do a final polishing of them. And there we are done with that. Now comes the real fun part, when you realize how much masking tape you really have wasted. About this much. So everything is, well, I can say basically done. And the only thing I'm gonna do now is to just clean it off. So now that it is nice and clean, I'm going to take some, what it says right off, fingerboard conditioner. Not for your hair, for your fingerboard. And because the bridge is rosewood too, I'm going to smear some on here. And this helps the wood to like hydrate and cleans it up a little bit too. This is always a mess. So now it's somewhat in tune, but the truss rod doesn't have any tension. And it has to, because otherwise it doesn't play as well. So right now the string action is so low that it gets bouncy around here. So what I'm gonna do, because I have this nice bridge, I'm just going to turn it up a little bit until I get a string action that I am satisfied with. So to recap a little bit, what I have done is basically just making this guitar more playable. So first off, I fixed the broken tuner. The second thing I did was to route out the truss rod adjustment hole, just so you can get in there with a key and turn it. And the third thing was the main thing of this whole little fix, and that was to sand down the bridge. And again, if it weren't for all the problems, I would have taken off the bridge and re-glue it, but now there was a lot of problems involved, so I didn't do that. And if someone in the future thinks that I'm a huge idiot, then fine. They just have to take off the bridge and do it the proper way. And as a last thing, I first off sanded down the inlays on the fretboard, plus I leveled and crowned all the frets. So yeah, I think that is it for this guitar. Done. I'm Tom Victor Shiren, and thanks for watching.